Good evening. My name is Joe Sam Robinson, and it's my pleasure to have with us once again, Dr. Buck Melton. Welcome, Buck. It's always great to have you here. And you often bring some wisdom that you put in your saddlebag to share with our large audience. Is there anything in the saddlebag?
Well, I've been doing a lot of Cold War reading lately, so one that occurs to me is the short poem, "To split the simple atom, all mankind was intent. Now any day the atom may return the compliment."
Ha, ha, ha. Well, that's true. Well, and actually we do have a very contentious, difficult world, do we not?
We do indeed. So.
All kinds of things happen. There are lots of things to discuss. Maybe we could start out. One of the big events that happened recently is the presidential candidates have elected or selected vice presidential colleagues. And that process is an interesting one, and maybe we could do a little historical journey back to the problems that happened with the founding of the country with Jefferson and Adams. Could you relate that particular story?
Well, yes, and we can go back even a little bit before that. As a matter of fact, although that was a major turning point, I think. That what the role of the vice president is, it's a very odd one. As a matter of fact, during the, was it the 2004 election, 2008, was it Sarah Palin running for vice president?
Yes.
Joe Biden was running for, I think that was 2008. And there was a big to-do. Somebody floated the idea that the vice president wasn't even part of the executive branch, that all of the vice president's official duties were listed as part of the legislature, as presiding over the Senate. Yes. So I thought that was an interesting idea. But initially, the important thing to remember is that the founders, when writing the Constitution, did not contemplate the development of political parties, certainly not of national political parties. They probably didn't want it. I describe political parties as the most important extra-constitutional development in American politics. And so the idea is that each elector would cast two ballots. And these were not a ballot for president and a ballot for vice president. These were just two ballots.
Now that was in the Constitution.
Yes, that was in the Constitution. And so whoever got the most votes would become president. Whoever got the second most votes would become vice president. But then as political parties began to emerge very quickly in the 1790s, and you got the idea of what we would loosely call running mates, that a party would put forward a ticket of a presidential contender and a vice presidential contender. The electors from a party would start casting their two ballots for the same two people. And if all the electors in the party did that, then the person intended to be president and the person intended to be vice president would end up getting the same number of votes, thus tying. And then the House of Representatives would have to vote to break the deadlock and determine who would become president. So this led to a couple of anomalous things. In 1796, when the Republican Party threw away one or two of their votes, the Federalist candidate John Adams became president, and the leading Democratic-Republican candidate Thomas Jefferson became his vice president. So this would be like Joe Biden being president and Donald Trump being vice president.
Well, the two had a really a lifelong relationship.
Yes.
And I think there was some mutual respect, but I would imagine there's a little jousting going on as to who the big dog was.
By that point, they had drifted apart.
Yes.
They had the common enemy of the British up until that point.
Right,
but they really, their differences
as their lives drew to an end, they were reconciled, I believe.
They were, but this was a nasty time because Jefferson, for all his contributions to the American character and American politics, Jefferson had a very dark side to him, and he was, it came out later, he was paying money to Jeffersonian newspaper editors to engage in character assassination against his friend Adams, and then when he was caught doing it, he lied about it. So This was the nadir of
Well,
of their relationship.
lying about it, that's a hard word.
Oh, it was.
He lied, really?
Yes,
And then
he did.
how
So-
was the lie revealed?
It came out later. I think somebody talked, and
Okay.
it became public knowledge while Jefferson was president several years later. But at any rate, after that, in the election of 1800, no one threw away their electoral votes. And so Jefferson, who was intended to be president, and Aaron Burr, who was intended to be vice president, got the same number of votes. It was clear that the Federalists were not going to keep the presidency. And so Alexander Hamilton could be kingmaker, the great
Yes.
Federalist who hated Jefferson and hated Burr. He couldn't become president. He couldn't keep Adams in, but he ended up throwing his support to Jefferson, and the House voted Jefferson in. And thereafter, we got the 12th Amendment. And it was a very simple fix, actually. It simply said, I mean, the long and short of it is that now, when the electors cast their two ballots, one was denominated for the presidential nominee and one for the vice presidential nominee. And so the president and vice president were no longer contending for the same office.
Yep.
So it didn't matter if they got the same number of
So
votes.
the vice president has some responsibilities, and one I think is to ramrod the Senate to do that, to sort of preside over the Senate, and certainly to replace the president if, in fact, he's incapable of doing his job, or he's dies. I guess those are the possibilities, and then but that's about it. And
Yes.
so it's kind of an interesting office.
And I would like to throw in there,
Yes.
not to take away that, but actually, if you read the text of the original Constitution, it is not even clear if, upon the death of the president in office, if the vice president himself is to actually become president, or simply to remain vice president and exercise those duties. The phraseology is something along the lines of, in the event of the death of the president or inability to discharge the powers of his office, the same shall devolve upon the vice president. So the question is, what does the same refer to? The powers and duties or the office? And the first occasion we had to test that was when William Henry Harrison died. Very shortly after his inauguration, 1841, very good.
That's got a gold star for
yes.
that. Right?
And the question is, was John Tyler supposed to become president or to remain vice president and exercise the duties? I'm not even sure of how it came about, but he took the oath of office and was sworn in as president, and that was the tradition that was established.
Well, I mean, we have our present contemporary times now. We have all this tension. There's 3 months to the election, and now we have these vice presidential aspirants that each party has chosen. Or shall we say it another way? The contending presidential candidates picked their vice president. Was that always been the case, or did the party put people in, or is there been? You mentioned the issues about Adams and Jefferson, the two people not getting along. Presumably, if the presidential candidate picks the vice presidential candidate, then that would be something that had happened. But I'm thinking about Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson.
Yes, that's the big standout, of course.
And so they don't always get along, do they?
No,
and that's a
not
problem. And if the vice president is put out of the decision-making apparatus, that puts him or her at a substantial disadvantage if they're for many reasons.
Yes. Another example, and yes, the Kennedy-Johnson one is the prime example. And yes, as parties have developed more and more, and presidents, or at least the presidential contender, has emerged as the more or less official head of the party, the president has been able to say, this is who I want, and sort of present it to the party as a fait accompli. And the presidents often do it to balance the ticket. That's what you often hear, to appeal to a section of the electorate that the presidential nominee himself or herself in this case might not be able to reach. And so, for instance, Kamala Harris's pick is much more a centrist. He's a white male. He's from a flyover state. Yes, exactly. Another one, famous one, would be Harry Truman. That it should have been. It was probably clear to Roosevelt that he had a very good chance of not finishing out his fourth term.
Yes.
And yet he brought Truman on board. There was no strong rapport between the two of them. Truman had been a bit of a thorn in the administration's side while he was investigating wartime expenditures.
Particularly the atom bomb.
Yes, he had not been, and he had not been briefed at all on the bomb until after Roosevelt's death. So yeah, that's an example that vice presidents are often sidelined. They are not thought of either by the electorate or by presidential candidates as potential presidents. They are thought of as ticket balancers or equalizers or some way to bring them.
Can we parse out the two candidates we have that have emerged, the vice presidential candidates? And I think we could say the presidential candidates picked these people, and pretty much independently. And seemingly one of the big things would be, can I get along with that person? That would, I mean, it seems to me that would be number one. Number two is maybe they can balance the ticket. And maybe number three, would they be a good president? And number four is, what about my policies? How do they comport with that? And so I'll ask the question between the two candidates, vice presidential candidates, how could they function as president? What do you think? Let's just go through that.
Well, who would you like to start with? Which one of the two? I'll hit the ball back to you.
Let's go with the Republican candidate.
J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance, yes.
He has being denounced as the worst vice presidential choice in recent history. I have to go back. I mean, there was some denunciation of Sarah Palin as
extreme denunciation.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
Maybe even more so.
Yes.
I mean,
I thought at the time it was not as warranted. It was clear during her debate with Biden that I wrote an editorial about at the time that she was woefully underprepared on constitutional issues. I can't speak to the rest of it. Of course, then Biden made an absolute howler right after it, saying that Article 1 was the executive article. So that was not an auspicious debate. Before that, there was, of course, Dan Quayle, who was just completely ridiculed.
Is it they're ridiculed, or they don't think they obviously didn't occupy the office? They didn't occupy it, yes. But they're assaulted. Maybe is it easier to assault the vice presidential candidate than the presidential candidate? And that's a tempting target. I can remember with Sarah Palin, they were mocking her. She could field strip an elk if she killed an elk. She could field stripping animals out there.
She could see Russia from her backyard.
Right,
I'm not even sure she actually said that. That may have been a Saturday Night Live.
And so,
yes.
Just the vitriol that's poured on the heads of these two gentlemen is impressive, and maybe that's always that way. But do we have any way to judge that? I mean, J.D. Vance seems to be an upright guy. It doesn't seem to be a narcotics addict or whatever, or any.
Well,
I don't know if there's any bad thing in his background.
I've been hearing a lot more criticism than that.
Oh, really?
Yes. First of all, there have been allegations that have been derided of some sexual activity that I will not report here.
Isn't that rather slanderous? I mean, apparently that's been tossed around, and this is the kind of deep drink out of the cesspool of
Yes.
demagoguery that
Yes.
goes on. I mean, that's really a fairly, and I'll let it go with that.
Yes.
But
More
that
seriously.
seems to be. I mean, I dislike hearing those accusations. I just don't like it.
Yes.
That's my comment.
And sexual impropriety is one, certainly on the Supreme Court, that tend to get thrown at prospective candidates. More seriously, is his stand on the traditional nuclear family, and his flirtation with party extremists, and these have been pretty well documented, and he's doubled down on it.
Well, does that interfere with, I mean, that's true enough. So his personal opinions, I mean, I guess we'll get into this, match Trump's, or in many ways. It's certainly similar, and maybe he was selected for that reason. On the other hand, you could say he's really a smart guy. I mean, Yale Law School, I guess I could say that makes he's pretty smart. And Ohio State, really an active brain, and did very well there in undergraduate. And,
well, Ron DeSantis, I think, was Harvard Law School. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, I could make the argument that the smarter you are, the more dangerous you are if you hold non-conventional positions.
Well, maybe the country is just rebounding from Trump's time there. Oh, this person can actually use the English language and seems to make coherent sentences. Well, that's check mark for that, I think, for both people, but particularly JD. And then I guess the question, are you going to be a good president? That requires a lot of sense of compromise, understand the other side, and also political savvy about Washington and indeed the world. And so that would, to me, mean a person that had a pretty far out background, is travel, understanding, speaks languages, understand what's up. So I don't know. I mean, but he's been in the Senate, and his story is an attractive story. So
well, if it's true, there's been the whole hillbilly elegy idea. That there's been serious questions as to whether or not there have been fabrications in there, whether he's put himself across as entirely truthfully there. And I want to discuss the childless cat ladies idea. That there has been among both parties.
In many circles, that was quite offensive, I would say.
Well, in undecided voter circles, that's where I'm headed here.
For ladies that like cats, my wife has several cats. She likes cats.
Yes, but she's not childless.
But she likes cats.
Well, what I'm getting at here is that there has been a tendency among both leaders of both parties in the last 5 or 10 years to make these very condescending statements about segments of the population, many of whom may be undecided voters. And it does not make any sense to me to antagonize the people whose votes you're trying to get. And he's doubled down on this. You know, he's essentially said that,
has he said, well, what I said about cat ladies is slams, is he really done that? He puts
he has.
These cat ladies are dangerous, and I'm going to put them in jail. He said that? Really?
Yes, he did. And
that's bad.
And he has made further comments about the fact that people who have no children have no stake in the future of America, and that therefore, and now these are my words and not his, second-class citizens. That, you know, this is a very concerning idea, and I don't like to trot out the Gordon's principle, whoever refers to Hitler first in an argument loses. But, you know, there have been a lot of people equating Trump with Nazism. And I must say, there have been book bans going on and this sort of thing. But the idea, you know, one element of Nazi Germany is we have to have children. The world must be peopled.
In many places, you can say Russia. I mean, it's not an unusual in the way the world goes. A nationalist state often would say that.
But yeah, he doubled down on it. He says that we ought to give parents who have children extra votes in the voting process. It's just...
Well, now let me explore that a little bit. So to me, the issue, well, I think we're set, the idea of, well, can you be president, or do you have what it takes to be president? And the argument is, well, your opinions are too extreme. And then, of course, that just matches Trump's opinions. I don't know if that disqualifies someone it's just more of the same. And Trump's not so far away, I would think, or at least people imagine that. Now, having said that, with J.D. Vance, is this true? A lot of this was just he's drinking beer and being interviewed or whatever. And what do you think about that? Well, let me drink another beer. Yeah, that's what I think. Or and then this happened 4 years ago. No, is it like this is going to be my policy once I have power? And when I was running for the Senate, the Ohio Senate, I touted these ideas. Or was this something that was dug up? And so one of the things that happens in this situation is that anything that anybody has said that is extreme, and many people have said things in extreme, and was it taken out of context? And so to me, that would, before I would say for sure that's these viewpoints are hardcore, he's going to his grave with a viewpoint, or was this an accidental extreme statement, which we all make at some point. We could, it'd be some extreme statement you made sometime in your life about something, and take it out of context, and everything is said is recorded.
Okay, well then name 3 things that he's done that's been good for the country.
Well, he was in the Marines.
Okay, that's good. So he's a bloodthirsty killer?
He defends the honor, he keeps our honor clean.
He's an imperialist killer.
No, he keeps our honor clean.
Uh-huh.
So that Trump's being...
So you've bought into the propaganda then, so...
Well, if to really get complicated about the way the nation states work, you have to have that sort of card on the deck, I think.
Well, what I'm saying is,
to defend the nation state.
Well, J.D. Vance, I mean, this is not just some offhanded thing. This seems to be a hardcore policy with him, and he has doubled down on it since being named as vice presidential candidate. And I am doing him the courtesy of taking him at his word. I mean, unfortunately, the record is all we have to go on. And
well, to me, I mean, on that point, I mean, we've got, and this is an issue about some of the centrifugal force in the country right now. So we have these 2 political parties, each have their, I guess, extreme viewpoints on things. I think that's a fair thing to say. Trump, for better or worse, has powerful opinions that are not typical. I would say that, not totally typical. In some areas they are, but okay. So he picked a person that matches his opinions, and that he thinks he can get along with, and then he thinks these opinions are so close to mine, I can pass the baton to him, and he can carry on in my legacy. Maybe Hitler picks Goebbels or whatever, or I don't know, Stalin picks Gromyko or someone, I don't know. But so that may be part of it. Now, having said that, I really wonder, I'm not persuaded about stories about the person said this or said that. To me, a real interview would be needed.
Well, these are quotations. I mean, go look at. I mean, go do the research.
Did you really? Okay, I'm interviewing him. Do you really believe that? Do you say that? Was that?
Yes, there have been such interviews since he received the nomination.
That would be useful to hear.
Yes.
I think, if that's the case. So you really think that?
Yes.
And I mean, I don't know if I've seen that type of interview. If he hasn't, it would be.
Yes. And one of them was. And it was almost farcical what he said. He said something like, "I really don't have that much issue with cats," as opposed to, "I don't have that issue with ladies." He's getting it out there.
So, I like cats. I deal with cats in my household.
But what I'm saying is, he seems to have a fixation, and the thing is, it's not a one-off. I mean, there have been documented instances that he's got an almost pathological fixation on having lots and lots of children. And then if you want to put that in the context of the Republican Party being pro-life, it just seems to, it seems almost a perverse desire to force women to have children.
Well, I'm not sure I buy that.
Go look it up. Don't take my word for it.
All right, okay.
You're the one who don't like to take word for people. Go look up his record since he's been nominated.
I would like, maybe I'd like to. All right, I take your point, and then I would now say this. One of the issues about nationalism, birth rates, ethnic groups, different ethnic groups push either covertly or less so about let's have our ethnic group have a big population. That's great. We're doing that, and I think that's a card in the deck. And certainly some nations do that. And you could make the case in the American Southwest, the idea of the Hispanic population is just expanding, and the culture is changing. And so if you look at the demographics in the country, a lot of the centrifugal forces are being propagated by different arrangements for the ethnic groups. So here, one ethnic group triples its size, one just stays the same. And in fact, I'd say the European American group is their population is pretty flat for many reasons, and there are many things that go along. And is that good or is it bad? It may well be the population of the world is so extraordinary that some limitations might be necessary. But making that point, okay. The other thing is that the family unit, I would be a believer in that. So if you're saying it's not so much children, it's a strong family unit, and I totally believe this, that you have the mother and the father are bound together emotionally strongly, and they take on the task of raising their children appropriately and giving them guidance in life. And if you did that, I think that would be a really commendable thing, and it would make the country that much better. And so if he's trying to edge in that direction, that sounds like an acceptable thing. On the other hand, putting people in the basket of deplorables, the Hillary plan, that's not the thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, well, it would be nice if you were doing that. The problem is that's not what he said. But I do think that would dovetail nicely with what he said, and I do agree with that.
If he sailed the ship that way,
yeah.
I mean, if that's his purpose, that would be.
Yes. And sociologically, I mean, the more well-off a demographic is, the fewer children it tends to have, because especially in an industrial society, children are a financial liability at least in the first 10 or 20 or maybe even 30 years than an asset.
And less so on a farm, less
yes.
so an agrarian situation. And finally, the big huge thing taking place is the biological liberation of the ladies. I mean, their OB care or whatever the deal is, birth control, they can do this, they can do that, and it's really, and also the burdens, the reproductive burdens have been substantially reduced. They live longer, they've got this, they've got that, on and on. So that's one of the substantial things that has happened.
Yes.
And I'll let that story go. My family, one more comment on JD.
And then we have to wrap up.
Well,
so.
all right. Our next thing, we'll talk about the Democratic candidate.
Yes.
But it makes me wonder if people are obtain political power, or they do that. They go down the street on a big parade and people are cheering them. That's pretty much a very seductive path to take. And the people that pursue that often have substantial psychological problems. And it's a balanced personality is with restraint and judicial temperament may wind up as a judge, but less so in the political arena. And I don't know all the details about his life, but it appears to me it was a pretty extreme one. And that there were some nips that it happened, and that could have a role, and the same with all these politicians.
Well, quite possibly. Quite possibly.
Every one of them.
But we're going to have to wrap up at that point. My last word, and we'll have to investigate later, is Margaret Atwood's book, The Handmaid's Tale. And if you read that, I think you'll understand why.
That's that pesky Canadian, isn't that right?
That pesky Canadian. Yes. I think you need to read before you denounce these. I think you've
I've
been
read
listening.
Some of,
but we have to wrap up at this point.
I've read
we have
some
to
of
wrap
the books.
up.
They're quite good. Some of
so we'll have to talk about that next episode, perhaps.
Nothing personal with the Canadians.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.